Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints and various other reasons, Skylanders reviews will stop once again until we can get back to them in 2018. Wow. It has been such a long time since we last covered the Skylanders series on this channel. So long, in fact, that I'm pretty sure all of the kids who were fans of the games back then have since grown up and moved on with their lives. But not me. In fact, my Skylanders adventure is only just getting started, because we've still got 3 more games left to look at, starting off with Skylanders Trap Team for today's episode. So, let's grab our figures and get started. Please don't judge me. Since it really has been a while since we discussed any of these games, allow me to quickly refresh your memory on where we're at with the series so far. The debut game, Spyro's Adventure, was all things considered quite a solid experience. Lots of very well done characters, interesting locations to explore, and while a bit repetitive at times, it included gameplay that was both energetic and explorative to create a fun experience. The gimmick was incredibly solid and genius from a business perspective. Where it lacked was in some of the repetition, but Skylanders Giants, the first sequel, polished and streamlined the entire experience with more variety in both locations and gameplay styles, improved many mechanics, and introduced the giant figures, which were really neat. Swap Force, however, while still a very solid game, undid a lot of the good progress made in the previous title. It brought back the recycling of level themes, making things more droning to get through. The swap figures, while again a really cool idea, ultimately hurt the gameplay experience by just introducing far too many additional side areas that dragged the enjoyable moments to a halt while delivering some ridiculously extensive levels. Some of these easily surpassing an hour to complete, which made it exhausting a lot of the time. Looking back at these older episodes, I'd like to point out that I do still stand by a lot of my praise for this franchise. These games are just so much fun, what can I say? Forget using Spyro as a launching pad, forget the predatory business model. At the end of the day, these games are incredibly solid, fun action games with a lot of content to play through, which is the most important thing to remember. But despite that, I'm starting to second guess the decision to resurrect this series review. Maybe instead, I should be resurrecting the video game workout series because, goddamn, I haven't seen my neck in years. So, with all of that out of the way, let's take a dive back into the world of Skylands. Yo, I'm really excited to be back into these games. Master Eon tells us the story of ancient Doom Raiders, a band of characters led by the Golden Queen, who basically just ran around doing all the evil shit. That was until the elite trap team was formed and the Doom Raiders were defeated, locked away in a prison built of traptanium. Meanwhile, in the present day, our heroes are celebrating the grand opening of Skylanders Academy as the prison is destroyed by Kaos, letting the Doom Raiders free to work for him. However, the Golden Queen overrules his power and leads an attack against the Skylanders. So that's our story. Standard stuff, but it's so nice to see a new main villain because Kaos has always been lackluster as a character. As for everyone else though, it is very clear that the character design in these games has certainly improved from the earlier days of the series, because all of the Doom Raiders and all of the Trap team look absolutely awesome. Before we can play anything though, first we need a brand new portal, of course, as well as some Trap Team figures to go along with. Special thanks goes out to Nam for supplying all of the figures you'll see in today's episode. You absolute bloody legend. Sorry it took 2 years to finally get around to this, but I hope the wait was worth it. So jumping into the game, everything is looking very familiar. The gameplay is very much the same, with identical visuals and music direction. We still have the elemental gates to access side areas, and overall, it's just another Skylanders game. What can I say? But the big gimmick here is the new ability to trap Doom Raiders as well as other generic enemies who we meet throughout the various stages. Along with our new portal and trap figures, we also need to stockpile a whole bunch of traps to use in the game. Once you've defeated the enemy, you place a trap of the correct element type into the portal device to capture them. And what's cool is that you actually get sounds coming out of the portal.
Sheep creep trapped.
Now, what this allows you to do is actually play as the villain characters. Very neat, I must say, especially when it comes to Doom Raiders, as like I already mentioned, their designs are so great. So essentially, what we have here is an additional set of purchasable characters, much like the regular figures, only these are all interchangeable across the various different trap types. It's convoluted, but actually pretty cool. Playing as the villain characters is always such a fun gimmick, and I'm surprised more games don't tap into that. Now that we've captured the big blue guy and completed the first level, we can check out and explore Skylanders Academy, which serves as our hub world for the game. Like a lot of the others before it, new areas are gradually introduced over the course of the story. We can upgrade our figures, enter battle arenas and other secondary modes, as well as explore the various locations to find new secrets, all of which are staples of the franchise, along with some new additions to play with. All of this is great, the design of the location is good, but I don't know. I feel like this is a real me issue, so let me know how you feel about it, but I personally don't enjoy how massive this place is. It's one thing to have a great base camp that's exciting to explore, such as Peach's Castle or the home worlds from Spyro the Dragon, but when everything is so spread apart like this, it's just not efficient to see any of this stuff and feels like a waste of time when you walk all the way to one part of the map and find nothing to do. There are teleporters in a few select locations, but still, I feel like the airship from Giants was still a prime example of how a streamlined hub area can be so important to get right. But otherwise, Trap Team really is just another Skylanders experience, which is kind of disappointing. Getting into the main meat of the game now, running through the various locations, trapping enemies and defeating Doom Raiders is all well and good, but something about the gameplay just doesn't feel as satisfying. For one, playing as the trapped characters is a step down from any of your regular Skylanders figures. They've got less moves, are generally weaker in comparison, and many of these characters are small, utterly worthless creatures that are not appealing to play as. I guess they're here as a joke, but they offer nothing, so why waste the time including them? Look at Broccoli Guy here! Who wants to play as this character? Nobody.
Hey, look, Broccoli Guy was framed, okay?
But what's disappointing about this is that the regular Skylanders figures are also just as unimportant to this game. Not only are they also weaker and much less interesting next to the cooler Trap Masters, I mean come on, which one of these characters would you rather play as? But only Trap Masters can access elemental gates now, so you're wasting your time even using these guys. That's fun. Good to know they sold a bunch of figures to kids not worth squat. And what about all of the other figures from the previous games? Well, they're all still compatible, so you can use them if you choose. But why would you want to? There are no feats of strength for the giants, only the very occasional boulder to throw. There are no challenges based on the various swap abilities, and there aren't even any mixed elemental gates either. You don't need swap figures to use those if you have the correct elements and a second player, so I see no reason why these wouldn't be included again. How can you possibly expect people to invest in these things if the gameplay content you get from them is not going to be included in the next title? That makes everything you see here a complete waste when it comes to Trap Team. What a shame. So, if we don't have access to any of the additional side content that was introduced in the previous games, then what is there to actually do in this game? I think this is the culprit for why many of the levels are significantly shorter this time around. We've gone from stages lasting over an hour to barely surpassing half an hour in some cases, even with all of the side paths. I am very happy to see that there are no recycled level themes this time around, how it should be in my opinion, but the levels are still heavily padded with side areas, which means the primary gameplay is incredibly limited. Instead, we're spending time exploring elemental gates, completing segments exclusive to trapped characters, and also just standing around waiting. I've put up with it in the previous games, but now I'm sick of it. How hard is it to just let me pick things up instead of slamming the controller and wading through all of this stuff over and over again? We also have these radios scattered around now that spew out coins. That's fine, but sitting around waiting for them to do that absolutely destroys the pace of these levels. We still have to stop and complete the odd puzzle or play a game of Skystone Smash as well, but I actually don't mind these roadblocks. They are a fun distraction, but more importantly, they offer gameplay variety, unlike a lot of the other junk clogging up this game. And alongside some of the other mechanics found in select levels, these help to keep things fresh. What's not fun is going into an elemental gate and waiting around on fucking platforms for nothing other than a dumb hat. And from what I can tell, there seems to be less elemental gates overall, instead favouring side missions for the trapped enemies. Reaching one of these with the correct character trapped gains access to a quick side quest. For the more prominent characters, these are minigame challenge levels that aren't anything special, but still do help to break things up a bit. But a lot of these don't even give you a mission. Instead, it's just like a quick dialogue exchange and you're finished. What's the point? When you complete these, the enemy character gets an upgrade for their abilities and a new skin, but otherwise, they are a complete waste of time. And keep in mind, this is the only exclusive gameplay to come out of purchasing all of these traps. So once it's done, there is next to no reason to ever play as those characters again when they're so much less usable than the regular figures. It really makes it seem like such a waste when you have all of these different traps and figures when you get such a small amount of in-game content out of them, which as the consumer makes this entire experience so unsatisfying. Take for example, the only two characters in the game of the new Dark element. They look pretty badass, right? Well, take a guess how fucking worthless they are. We've already established that standard Skylanders are inferior to Trapmasters in every way, so there is no justification for even using this figure. But then, there are almost no areas in the game where Dark characters are stronger than normal, and the very few Dark elemental gates I came across were just lame physics puzzles. Are you kidding me? So that's two of the coolest figures ever produced for this series that are a total waste. And that's my problem with Trap Team. Generally speaking, the game overall is still of a decent quality. It's fun to play, it's got good presentation, and a lot of content to get through. But it is absolutely the first game in the series to feel like a monetary waste, if you ask me. And that is a major fuck up. It just leaves you playing through this thing entirely numb when you don't feel like the price of admission is worth it, and when the franchise already started off stretching that limit with the first game. At this point, it's far too damaging for Trap Team to operate this way. I've found myself playing through all of these levels that show so much potential and just feeling nothing. Nothing bad, but nothing good either. Some of the standouts would include Rainfish Riviera, Monster Marsh, and the secret sewers of Supreme Stink, but even they don't have much significant to offer compared to anything else. Some of the battles against the Doom Raiders would certainly be highlights of the game, but only because it's great to see some actually decent characters appearing in these games.
A vortex! I've really been trying to stay out of those things lately.
Partway through the story, the Golden Queen actually expels Kaos from the evil group, which sees him asking the Skylanders for help to defeat them. An interesting plot point, but one that doesn't really go anywhere, and unless you're 5 years old, you can probably guess where this is going to lead us. Somewhere past the halfway mark in this game, things start to feel rushed and less thought out. Story beats that should have great impact are resolved almost immediately, and there seems to be zero consequence for anything going on, again making our time spent in certain locations feel like a waste. But what also makes things feel less thought out is that many of the later levels feature very few trappable enemies, which I'm actually not going to complain about, because having to sit through these drawn out moments kills the pace of gameplay, which is not worth it just to hear some dumb audio clips.
What is this trap? Some kind of trap? I've never been in a trap before. Been in lots of tubes for some reason, but never a trap.
But what this essentially means is that the earlier part of the game is very front-loaded with this gimmick and is almost forgotten about after a while. Strange. I would assume this was done to prevent having too much backtracking from reaching character-specific side quests before you've actually encountered the characters. That makes sense, right? And thank you for doing that, because there is nothing worse than forced replayability. But I can't even give credit for doing that when at the same time, Trap Team features many instances where you find a mission for a character you haven't trapped yet, go into the literal next room, find them, trap them, and then can't even go back the way you came because it's suddenly locked off, meaning that to pass that side objective, you have no other choice but to replay the entire stage all over again. Motherfucker! After much shenanigans, such as the Golden Queen literally taking over, which, as you might expect, changes absolutely nothing within the game world, we finally cross the Golden Desert into her lair for a final showdown, and this is easily one of the best boss fights to come out of these games, which is awesome to see. This character is incredibly cliche, but that's because it's such a winner. But of course, once she's been defeated and trapped, meaning that, yes, you actually get to play as the main villain in this game, Kaos, right on cue for the most predictable plot twist in history, takes over the ultimate weapon and transforms into super evil purple Kaos. Sure, whatever. So this is our final level, and you know how I said that playing as trapped Doom Raiders offers nothing to the game? Well, the Golden Queen here, the villain for this game, all she is used for in this level is opening up these locked boxes for some additional treasure, and that's it. Hope buying all these traps was worth it, asshole! What I really love about this level though, is now that Kaos is being all super freaky, he actually communicates to us through the speaker on the portal.
My power is growing, Portal Master! Soon I will utterly squash your pitiful sky loser, and then off the button when you're done taunting. It's a push to taunt button, you know?
It really irks me that he constantly interrupts the game like this to say nothing of value, but I can't deny that this is a great gimmick. It's basically the kid-friendly version of Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid. The rest of this level doesn't have much going on, unfortunately, but the fight against Kaos at the end, again, is a new standard to match. His best battle of the series, without question, and once he finally gets knocked down, it's still not over. If you happen to own the very special Kaos trap, then you can place it in the portal at the end of this fight and capture the little runt, truly saving Skylands. And yes, that also means that you get to play as him too, which is fucking awesome. He has some of the coolest attacks out of all of the trappable enemies, all taken from his previous boss fights. That is so cool. But what a damn shame that we only get access to this character after the story is completed, and not during his alliance with us through the majority of the game. Thankfully, there is still a lot of stuff to do here. We've got arena challenges making a return. Chaos Doom challenges are these defensive arenas with turret mechanics where you have to protect the treasure from waves of enemies. I think this is a really neat mode, but the constant stopping and resetting between rounds really make it so much more tedious than it needs to be. The turret repairs and collection of items all happens automatically, so there is no reason to be stopping all the time. And of course, this game also has some additional levels found by purchasing magic items. The Mirror of Mystery here is fucking woeful and I hate it. So the quality of these DLC maps are still getting worse with each game. And remember, you're paying extra money for this, which makes it more disappointing, especially when you look at this special Chaos trap. You'd think that maybe you would get a full level along with this too, right? Since it's such an important item and Kaos is one of the premier villains that you would want to play as. But no. You don't get a new map to explore. Hell, Kaos doesn't even get a brief side challenge like the other bad guys. All you get is a quick cutscene involving an evil cake, and that's it. You have to pay money to see this. That is fucking disgusting. This is the villain of the series, and you can't even give him anything of value to do in this game. What a waste. Waste? That's our super secret Skylanders word for the day! Hooray! Making the effort to trap enemies is a waste of time when they offer so little gameplay in return. The regular Skylanders are a waste of plastic when they can't do anything compared to the trap figures, and all of that time and money you spent on the previous games is all a fucking waste, because none of it has any purpose now. And listen, the game overall is still fine. Everything looks and sounds good, the combat is decent, and even though levels lack a lot of the additional side paths, there is still so much to complete in this game. It took me 14 hours to finish the story mode alone, which in any other circumstance, I'd say was certainly a bang for your buck. But not this game. Trap Team has been crippled by its predatory business model. The same business model that I've defended in the past on the basis that it can provide a good return in gameplay content for the price of entry. But because so much of this stuff is ultimately worthless here, it holds back what could have been a good game from even receiving an average grade. Skylanders Trap Team gets 4 out of 10. What a damn shame. If they'd just ignored the regular figures entirely and just focused on the trap team and the trappable enemies, along with placing some additional value onto them, then I'd have dropped a 6 out of 10 on this game easy. But no. Instead, so much of this stuff is just a waste, and by this point in 2014, it really seemed like the Skylanders series had run its course. So, be sure to join me next time when we take a look at a fresh take on the franchise with Skylanders Superchargers. But until then, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and share. I'm Square Eye Jack and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.